But I want to talk about the police. They are pressing on regardless with a strange practice. They are recording and logging thousands and thousands of what they call hate incidents. Now, no crime here has been committed. So many people would argue, well, what on earth are the police doing messing around with matters that are not crimes? Why are they recording what they call hate incidents when no crime has been committed? This seems to many people to be a waste of police time and money and an assault on our freedoms. It sort of sounds like the Stasi or the Gestapo. There's something very illiberal and disconcerting about a police force that is going around logging incidents that have nothing to do with crime. Now, our next guest is a man who knows all about these kind of dubious activities by the police. He's a former police officer, a co-founder of the Fair Cop Group, Harry Miller. Good morning, Harry.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Before we get to the business of what the police are up to now in terms of logging these non-crime alleged hate incidents, tell us what happened to you.
Very briefly, I got involved on Twitter in debating about proposed reforms to the Gender Recognition Act. And I objected to the idea that simply by saying so, a man could automatically and magically change into a woman. Now, somebody from the Northwest, designated by the police as Mrs. B, part of a huge network of snitches, anonymous snitches, reported me because they decided that me saying men cannot change into women magically was hateful. And the police unbelievably took this seriously. And even when I challenged the police and said, no, I'm engaged in a political debate, they said, doesn't matter, you are now a hater, and we are putting you on our hate database. You are a non-criminal criminal. That's what the form says. It says I'm guilty of a non-crime crime.
Really? So non-crime crime?
Yeah, a non-crime crime.
Does it actually use that phrase, a non-crime crime?
Yes, that's the categorization.
You are kidding.
Crime. No. And this has been presented to the High Court a year ago and the Court of Appeal this week. Because
go on.
As you remember, we challenged homicide police and the judge agreed with us that there was no evidence of hate, no possibility that I was about to escalate into committing crimes. And the judge called homicide police practices, he likened them to the Gestapo, the Cheka and the Stasi, which was quite amazing in actual fact. Now, in homicide's defense, they said that they were following the guidance set out by the College of Policing. So we took the College of Policing to court, and we've been in the Court of Appeal this week demanding that they withdraw their guidance, which mandates police forces to believe anybody who says that person has offended me, and saying that's just entirely irrational. Now, bizarrely, the College of Police's defense was summed up pretty much by this. They said that these secret recordings would not be a problem if I'd not highlighted them. It's only me kicking up a fuss and making people aware of these secret recordings that is the issue. I mean, what kind of defense is that? This actually is the practices of rogue police states like the Stasi. And the judge was absolutely bang on correct to say that this is the route that we are going down unless we put an end to it.
Well, in the Court of Appeal this week, it was decided, unfortunately, that the police can continue this activity of logging.
No, it wasn't decided. The ruling's not in yet. We think they will rule in our favour.
Oh, okay.
We think that the court. Well, hopefully,
all right. Okay. So, Harry, let's. The police, though, are maintaining that they ought to carry on with this process because it's important in terms of looking to where crimes may be committed in the future. Did they not say to you at one point? Didn't an officer phone you up or come to see you and say, "We're just trying to check your thinking"?
Yeah, that's exactly what they said to me. Yeah, when I said, you know, what, have I committed a crime? They said, no crime. I said, well, why on earth are you ringing me? He said, we need to check your thinking. I said, you've got to be kidding me, mate. Have you heard of 1984 and George Orwell? And he said, no. And I said, well, 1984 is a dystopian novel. It's not a police how-to manual.
Indeed. But what do you think about this process now? There are so many pressing issues, criminal issues that I think the police should be dealing with. A lot of people who get burgled or who get their car nicked or who get attacked on the streets find that the police are too busy to deal with their offences at all. They pretty much have a policy of not bothering with domestic burglaries or car theft. That's almost 100%. And yet the police spend all this time logging non-crime crimes. That's a mad sense of priority, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's easy, isn't it? It's so much easier to come after me because I said, you know, I was assigned mammal at birth, but I identify as fish, which is one of the tweets that I said apparently that was hateful. It's so much easier to come after me than it is to actually go and find some real criminals to stop or some real criminals to arrest. Policing tweets is so much easier than policing streets. That's the fact of the matter. And that's why they are wedded to this nonsensical, draconian, Gestapo-like policy. And that's why me and Fair Cop are standing against it to bring it down.
And when are we getting a verdict on in the Court of Appeal, Harry?
I don't know. I'm sort of hope that it's this side of Easter. But it's a massive, massive case, you know, because if we win, the consequences are absolutely huge to the police. And if we lose, the consequences are huge to free speech. So either way, the three judges have got a big, big decision to make.
You're so right. Very important campaign, Harry. Keep up the good work. We will talk again soon. Let's go quickly to Emma Webb, my presenter's friend. Emma, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so these NCHIs that Harry's mentioning here were created by, as he mentioned, the College of Policing. Which importantly, I think it is to say that that is an unaccountable quango. Parliament did not pass any new laws to restrict free speech in that way. This is a completely unaccountable quango that has just sort of taken it into its own hands to restrict people's free speech. And as Harry said there, it's completely Orwellian. It poses a serious risk to people's freedom of speech, particularly as we were talking about women's rights earlier. On issues relating to the debate about sex-based rights.
Absolutely. Good thoughts, Emma. We will talk again soon. That's my presenter's friend, Emma Webb. And before that, that was Harry Miller. He's a former police officer and co-founder of the Fair Cop Group.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi. Let's go back to what we were just talking about. It is incredibly illiberal, isn't it, for the police to consider that it is within their remit to log thousands and thousands of incidents that are not crimes, that they say are hate incidents. And did you hear Harry Miller there, the former cop who's campaigning against this, saying that he has documents from the police saying that he was logged for a non-crime crime. Can you believe that? That is Orwellian in the extreme, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. They also record the person who was the let's say the offended party. They record them as being the victim, which implies that the person who has not committed the crime is some kind of perpetrator. And it's entirely subjective as well. So the person who is investigated won't necessarily know that there has been something that is sort of marked against their name that can come up in an advanced DBS check. And the consequence of this is essentially the mass surveillance of people's opinions on controversial subjects by the police without this being mandated by Parliament. It's not law. It comes from a non-legislative document in the College of Policing's guidance.
The incredible thing about that victims nonsense is, of course, it's not just in non-crime crimes, it's in crimes. People who go to court charged with, shall we say, rape, find themselves dealing with what are called their victims. Well, they're not their victims. They're alleged victims until that case is proved. Now, Sir Robert Henriques, who launched an inquiry into the ludicrous Operation Midland, the VIP pedo ring, that was absolute nonsense. The police spent millions of pounds on, only to their shame and ignominy, because it all collapsed. And Carl Beach, who was called Nick in documents, went to jail for lying about it all, but the police believed it. Now, when Sir Robert Henriques in that inquiry said it is time, he called upon the police to stop this practice of calling anyone who complains about a crime an automatic victim. And what did the police do? They rejected it and said they were going to carry on. This is trying to create the image of guilt. If you talk about a victim, then the person who perpetrated the alleged incident against that person automatically seems guilty, don't they?
It's worrying that the police don't seem to think that this is a particular problem, because that actually came up in the appeal case that Harry just mentioned. The College of Policing argued that the reason why they don't question the victim, and obviously why it's infused with so much subjectivity, is because they are afraid of causing some kind of secondary harm to the victim. Or as I'm saying the victim, I'm using their language, but that they're worried that it will cause some kind of secondary harm if they're not just taken on their word. And this is something that is an issue generally. We saw this with Piers Morgan as well, that you're not allowed to question the veracity of someone's claims if they say that they've been wronged. And I don't think that that is compatible in any way with justice. And it's the same as the issue that we're seeing at the moment with the hate crime bill that was passed recently this week in Scotland, that again, it's the subjectivity that is going to see people having their free speech essentially restricted in a way that is completely Orwellian.
And why did it take the police several years to realise that their policy for people who claimed they've been sexually assaulted or raped, to tell them, you will be believed? Why did it take the police several years to realise that is absolutely absurd? It's an abrogation of everything the police ought to be about. Everything that everyone says to the police, it is their professional duty to treat with scepticism, to just say you will be believed no matter what you say, is an abrogation of their duty. It's ridiculous. It makes them sort of professionally dim and stupid. Why did it take them years to realise that was nonsense?
The motivation seems to be compassion for potential victims, and you can see where they're coming from with that. But this is a general issue where an excess of compassion starts to interfere with the process of justice. The same was true with the recent debate around allowing Shamima Begum to come back to the UK. Again, it's an excess of compassion that is putting the justice process at risk. And I think you're absolutely right there, Kevin, that the police have a duty to be skeptical. And whilst that might not necessarily be comfortable for potential victims of crimes, I think it's important for every member of society to know that they will be treated as if they are innocent until proven guilty.
I still can't get my head around why the police didn't realise that when they say you will be believed, it makes them institutionally gullible. It was an absolutely moronic policy that got them into all sorts of trouble. There are elements of the police force who still treat allegations of sex abuse with complete gullibility and just say, yes, that is true. And that has to stop. I'm not saying that these charges shouldn't be taken very, very seriously, but no copper should just automatically believe anyone. That is against the principles of their job.